Welcome to another episode of Car Ride Conversations with Chronically Rye, featuring me. I'm Rye, and we're very obviously not in my car. Welcome back to my patio at our new place, which has turned into a really cool little spot to record. I don't know if you can hear Ollie barking in the background because he hears me talking and he's like, what the fuck? Anyway, so Brian and I were in the car earlier and I was surfing social media as one does, and something came up that comes up on a lot of our posts actually. I did an introductory post because I got a lot more followers over the weekend, and I wanted to be like, hey, this is the woman behind that picture of me in scrubs pretending to work at a keyboard. And so I put on there, my name's Ryan, I'm a 29-year-old registered nurse, disabled woman, queer woman, etc., 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 etc. And somebody piped up and said, oh, you're not a queer woman, the labels don't define you, and all this kind of things. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool, like, I get it. It's pretty awesome. But, they kind of do. Because I do identify as a queer woman. So that is a label that does fit me. And so I was talking to Ryan, and she said, she had posted, I don't know if you guys saw, but she was featured in the newest, I always say episode, it's not episode, the newest edition of The Advocate magazine, because she has, I'm so proud of her, finally come out like professionally as, a gay athlete. And so the title had something about, lesbian athlete, lesbian hand cyclist, whatever. And it was shared in a Facebook group that we're both a part of, and somebody popped up and said, why does your sexuality matter? Why can't you just be an athlete? True. I mean, we're not wrong, but there's something to be said about self-imposed labels. Okay. I know that if any of y'all are around my age, you remember the Happy Bunny era of little quote thingies. I was obsessed with Happy Bunny. I don't know. Cute but Psycho was my jam. Fit me well. I really wish they would bring that back, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. When they're recycling all this old fashioned, where's my Happy Bunny? But I remember there was one that was normal is just a setting on a washing machine, or then although my labels don't define me, labels are for soup cans or whatever. And to a point, that's true. Right? I don't want society to label me in one sort of way and only see me in one way. For example, I recently signed on with C Talent, and I wanted to make very clear, yes, I am Miss Wheelchair Virginia, but that's not all of me. I don't want to be just seen as the pageant queen, because Lord have mercy, that if y'all been here for any length of time, you know that label doesn't fit me. Yes, I am a title holder, but I don't fit the stereotypical pageant queen persona. That's not a label that I use on myself. That's not a self-imposed label. That is a label that society tries to impose upon me because of my title. Does it offend me if someone calls me a pageant queen? No. But if I'm going to choose my own labels and choose how I am seen or branded by the media or future jobs, or, entering that entertainment public eye industry, I don't really want to be seen as the pageant queen. There's a lot more to this. But for other things, one that if you are a part of the disabled community, I'm sure you have heard this. And I'm going to preface this next little bit with, this does not apply to all disabled people. I'm going to make a generalization because there are exceptions to the rule. But for the most part, and for myself, I self-identify as a disabled woman. I was born with a disability. I am disabled. That is me. It makes me roll my eyes every time when someone comments on my post and says, "You're not disabled. Your disability doesn't define you. You are, what is it? Differently abled, not disabled." Okay, well, that's funny. Okay, thanks. I know what you're trying to say, and I understand, like, you don't mean any harm by that, but disabled isn't a bad word. And so for myself to take back that term and self-identify proudly as a disabled woman, that is taking away that negativity that society has imposed with the term disabled. That's why I hate the term handicapped, handicapable. Fuck y'all, I am disabled. My goddamn joints don't work for shit. I use a wheelchair to get around. My disability defines my life greatly. And instead of feeling limited by that, I feel empowered by that term. Something similar goes with the term queer. So for me personally, my sexuality is a large part of my identity because of what I do here on this platform. I advocate for the LGBTQIA+ community. Oh, I did it right that time. Alphabet Mafia photo win. But see, that's the thing. I self-identify as a queer woman. Now, when the term queer came about, it was originally a slur. Are we right? I mean, well, not originally. Originally, queer did not mean, just meant different and strange. It still means different and strange, by the way, but people don't use it that way. But the LGBT community wanted to take the power out of that term and began using it to self-identify. I self-identify as a queer woman. Now, if someone were to scream at me, "You motherfucking queer," that is changing the meaning and using it as a slur. But for me to self-identify, it's powerful. I like using the term queer. We're going to just go with that example because for me it's all-encompassing. So my sexuality is fluid. My gender identity is also fairly fluid. I jokingly say that I identify as a rainbow. But going around and trying to explain that to people constantly was exhausting. When I was a major part of that, I was in a polyamorous marriage. So when people would ask me what my sexuality was, I was like, oh God, where the fuck do I start? And that's where I found the term queer. It was very fitting for me. It was all encompassing. It encompassed encompasses how I feel about my gender identity, as well as my sexual identity, and as well as my evolving and changing relationship identity. Queer is a label that I self-identify as. Now, let's talk about some benefits of labels. Self-imposed labels can be incredibly freeing. It can help you identify as a part of a community, a part of a family. Generally, this is with, marginalized groups, for sure. The disabled community, for example, and the LGBT community for me as well. I'm proud to be a part of these marginalized groups, and I'm proud to advocate for these groups that I am a part of. So all of this being said, we're just going to think about the difference between self-imposed labels and labels imposed by society. Good, not always great, kind of not fantastic. But also just the representation, specifically the representation that comes with a label. So I've used this quite a bit, but growing up for me, in the area where I grew up, I think I could think of maybe 2 gay women that I've ever seen in my whole life, and they were very, very, very butch lesbians. That wasn't me. So I never saw myself. So I never thought I was anything but, maybe bisexual, I guess. But it didn't really ever fit because I didn't have anyone to look up to. It was before the time of social media the way it is today. And God, that made it sound like I'm like from the dark ages before the times of Instagram. But it's true. I didn't have anyone to look up to and anyone to see in the media or on TV shows or in movies that were like, oh my God, they're just like me. Same thing with my disability. I don't think I ever saw a female in a manual wheelchair until I was well into college in person. Because growing up in the country, I knew 2 people with disabilities and they were far more disabled than I was, and so I didn't even self-identify as a disabled woman until I was in my 20s. Because I didn't feel like I could, because the representation wasn't there. The representation that I saw relating to the label of disabled and disability wasn't me. It didn't fit me. It wasn't until I entered the world of social media and my eyes were open that disability fits all kinds. Gay and queer fits quite a spectrum of humans. And suddenly it was like, oh my God, I'm not the only one anymore. And that's why I proudly self-identify not only as a disabled woman, but as a gay woman. Gay disabled women, very openly gay disabled women, that's a real small little group. And I'm proud to be a part of that family, of that community. And I'm proud to be the person that I needed to look up to when I was first figuring all this mess out, when I was first diagnosed with my disability. That's why I'm here. That's why I run my mouth on this platform and work my ass off day in and day out making content, even when I'm exhausted and working every other night. If y'all are wondering where I was last week, whew. I want to be the person that I needed when I was 11, 12, 13. And I hope that somewhere out there, there's a 11, 12, 13-year-old disabled queer human that says, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. There is someone like me. And she is older and thriving and loud and ridiculous and living her best life. Because I could have, evaded quite a bit of heartache and loneliness growing up if there had been somebody like me out there. So, to all y'all who are still figuring out what labels fit you and what labels you want to self-identify as, take your time. Sometimes it takes till you're almost 30, but you'll get there, one day at a time. Now, I have a very hot girlfriend that's in there waiting for me to come eat dinner with her, and I'm going to go make a little 16-year-old me real happy and go have dinner with my girl. I hope you guys have a good night.